My IVF sister demanded I change my baby's name, even though my husband and I had announced it months before she got pregnant. My husband Daniel and I told both our families we were having a boy when I was just past the first trimester. We told them his name that same afternoon. Elliot, not Elliot with 2 T's, just Elliot. It wasn't a name we pulled off a baby app at 2 in the morning. It was the name of Daniel's grandfather, the man who raised him after his mother died and his father mostly disappeared into a new life 2 states away. Elliot had taught Daniel to drive in an empty church parking lot. He'd shown up at every baseball game even when Daniel sat on the bench the whole season. He'd kept every report card Daniel ever brought home in a dented metal box in the hall closet. Daniel still had one of his old pocketknives in the drawer beside our bed. It was too dull to cut anything anymore, but he kept it there anyway. When we told the family, my mom cried. My sister Claire hugged me and said she loved it. Her husband Matt said it was solid and classic. Everyone took pictures. My aunt bought a little wooden letter E before I had even made it home from the restaurant. 5 weeks later, Claire found out she was pregnant after years of IVF. She already had 2 daughters, but this pregnancy had taken a long time and cost her a lot. I was happy for her. Everyone was happy for her. A month after that, we learned she was carrying a boy too, and I honestly thought it was perfect. 2 cousins close in age, 2 little boys at Christmas. Something good after everything she'd been through. Then my mom came over one Tuesday afternoon while Daniel was at work. She was helping me fold baby clothes into drawers, or at least that's what she said she'd come to do. She folded 3 onesies, stood in the nursery doorway for a while, and then said Claire had decided she loved the name Elliott too. I told her that was fine. I meant it. There are plenty of cousins with the same name in big families. My mom has 2 cousins named David and an uncle named David. Nobody has ever needed a family summit about it. Then she asked me what Daniel and I were gonna change our baby's name to. I thought she was joking. She was not. She said it would be confusing to have 2 grandsons with the same name, and Claire had gone through so much to get pregnant that maybe we could be flexible. She said Claire had already started thinking of the baby as Elliot. She said this was a miracle baby, and surely Daniel and I had another name we liked just as much. I told her we didn't need another name. We already had one. We'd announced it months before Claire even knew she was pregnant. My mom sighed the way she always did when I was about to make something difficult for everyone else. "I'm not saying you did anything wrong," she said. "I'm saying you know how sensitive Claire is right now." That was the first time I understood this was not going to be a simple conversation about 2 cousins sharing a name. Claire called me that night. She didn't say hello. She said, "Mom told me you're refusing to change it." I told her I wasn't refusing anything. I was keeping the name Daniel and I had already chosen. She said I did not understand. She said she had spent 5 years watching everyone else have babies while she went through injections, surgeries, failed transfers, and 2 pregnancies that never made it far enough for her to tell most people about them. She said this was probably her only son. She said it was cruel that I could not give her one thing. I told her I was sorry for what she had been through. I meant that too. I told her none of it changed the fact that Elliot was our son's name. Then she said, "My miracle baby should get first dibs on whatever name we want." I remember standing in our kitchen with one hand on the counter, staring at the bowl of apples Daniel had bought that morning. I asked her what first dibs meant when we had announced the name before she was pregnant. She said it meant I was being selfish if I knew how much the name mattered to her and still insisted on keeping it. I told her I had not known it mattered to her because she had never said one word about it before that week. She said she should not have had to announce every private hope she had ever held just so I would not take it. I said, as calmly as I could, that she was free to use Elliot if she wanted. I wasn't going to tell her what to name her son, but I wasn't changing mine. She got quiet for a second. Then she said, "So you're really going to do this to me?" After that, she hung up. For the next 2 weeks, I tried to act like the call had not changed anything. I told Daniel it would settle down. Claire was emotional. She was scared. She had spent a lot of time in doctors' offices and I knew pregnancy after fertility treatment could make every little thing feel enormous. Daniel listened to me say all of that while he washed dishes one night. Then he dried his hands and asked if I wanted him to say what he thought. I said yes. He said Claire was allowed to have feelings. She was not allowed to turn those feelings into ownership over our child. That was it. He did not make a speech. Daniel has never been a speech person. But I think I needed someone to say it that plainly. The next Sunday, my mother came to our house with a gift bag. She was smiling too hard when she handed it to me. Inside was a framed wooden sign that said Noah's Room. Noah had been the second name on our list. We liked it. We had talked about it once. But it was not Elliot. I asked my mom why she had bought it. She said she thought it might help us start getting used to the idea. She said Noah was beautiful. She said it would save everyone a lot of stress. Then she added that she had not told Claire about the sign, as if that made it thoughtful instead of strange. Daniel was standing behind me in the hallway. I felt him go still. I handed the sign back to my mother and told her I could not accept it. She looked offended. She said she had spent an hour at the little craft store downtown choosing the stain color. I said I appreciated the effort, but we were not naming our son Noah. She asked why I was being so stubborn. I told her I was not being stubborn. I was telling her our son's name. She left the sign on the dining room table anyway. Daniel picked it up after she left, put it back in the gift bag, and drove it to her house the next morning before work. That should have been the end of it. It was not. My mom started calling the baby Noah in the family group chat. At first I thought it was a slip. She'd write things like, "Can't wait to meet little Noah." Under photos of my growing belly, I'd correct her. She'd reply with a heart emoji and write, "You know what I mean." Then she did it again, and again. One afternoon, my older cousin Hannah called me from the grocery store parking lot. She sounded uncomfortable. She said she had just spoken to my mom, who had told her Daniel and I were reconsidering Elliot because we did not want to hurt Claire. I told Hannah that was not true. Hannah went quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I figured. I just wanted to make sure before I said anything." That was when I started saving things. I saved screenshots of the group chat messages where mom called him Noah. I saved the photo from the restaurant the day we announced Elliot, including the date at the top. I saved the text my aunt had sent me that night saying she had already ordered an E-shaped rattle. I was not planning to post any of it. I just had the feeling that the story was already becoming different in other people's mouths. Claire was still talking to me, but every call turned into the same conversation. She would begin by asking how I was feeling or whether I had another ultrasound scheduled. Then, somehow, we would end up back at Elliot. She started saying the name out loud in a strange way. Not like she was talking about my son, like she was trying to test it in the air. "Elliot James," she said once. "That sounds better than Elliot Daniel, honestly." I told her James was not our baby's middle name. She said she knew. She was just thinking. Another time, she told me she had looked at custom blankets online and had found one with Elliot embroidered in blue thread. I asked why she was shopping for baby blankets before she had even talked to Matt about names. She said Matt had agreed that Elliot was perfect. She said I should not take it personally because the spelling would be different. I told her I was not taking her using the name personally. I was taking her demand that I change ours personally. She said I was twisting her words. The worst conversation happened after my niece Ava's school recital. Everyone was standing in the lobby afterward, holding flowers and trying to keep the younger kids from running into the coat rack. Claire came up to me and rubbed my stomach without asking. Then she said, loud enough for my mom and two aunts to hear, "I hope little Noah is behaving in there." I stepped back. I said, "His name is Elliot." Claire gave me this small, tired smile. "Not if we can find a reasonable solution." My mom said, "Please, not tonight." That was all. Not Claire, stop. Not mom, why are you calling him that? Just please, not tonight, as if I had created the scene by refusing to laugh. On the drive home, I cried harder than I wanted to. I was embarrassed by how much it hurt. It was just a name, I kept telling myself. A name should not be able to ruin an evening. But it was not just a name anymore. It was the first thing anyone was trying to take from my child before he was even born. The next morning, I texted Claire and asked if we could meet for coffee without anyone else there. She agreed, which surprised me. We met at a place halfway between our houses. She arrived late wearing a huge sweater and looked exhausted. For a few minutes, I felt guilty for even being angry. She had dark circles under her eyes. Her hands shook when she poured sugar into her coffee. I told her I wanted to understand if there was something about Elliot that I did not know. I asked whether it was someone she had lost, someone from her childhood, a name connected to something painful. I told her I was not promising to change it, but I wanted to know if there was a reason beyond just liking it. Claire stared down into her cup. Then she said she had always imagined having a son named Elliot. She said it was in a notebook she kept when she was younger. She said after the years she had spent trying to get pregnant again, she needed something that felt like it had been waiting for her. I told her I understood wanting that. I asked if she had ever told anyone. She said no. I asked if she had ever told Matt. She hesitated, then said not until after she heard our announcement. I asked whether Elliot was connected to a person, a memory, anything real in her life. She said, "Why does it have to be? Why can't I just love it?" I said she could love it. She could use it. But she could not expect me to undo months of calling my son Elliot, because she had decided afterward that she wanted it too. Her face changed then. The tiredness disappeared and something colder took its place. She said I was acting like my connection to the name was more important than her pain. I told her I was not ranking pain. I was naming my son. She left before finishing her coffee. For a few days after that, she did not call. My mom did enough calling for both of them. She told me Claire had been crying. She told me I was making pregnancy harder for her sister. She told me I had always been better at handling disappointment, which was one of those things my mom said like it was a compliment. I asked her why being better at handling disappointment meant I should have to be disappointed all the time. She said I was putting words in her mouth. I said no, I was repeating the pattern back to her. That made her angry. My cousin Hannah called again that weekend. This time she asked if she could come over. She brought takeout and sat with me at the kitchen table, while Danielle was putting together the changing table in the nursery. Hannah is 6 years older than me. When we were kids, she spent enough time at our house that she had seen things I had thought were normal. She asked me whether I remembered the summer I was 12 and Claire wanted my bedroom because it got more morning light. I remembered. I had been moved into the small room at the back of the house for 3 months because Claire said the sunlight helped her wake up for cheer practice. I had forgotten that Mom told everyone it was my idea. Hannah reminded me about my high school graduation dinner, when Claire threw a fit because the restaurant did not have her favorite dessert and Mom left my dinner early to take her somewhere else. She reminded me about my wedding, when Claire was late because she had decided her dress was wrong and Mom spent 40 minutes in the hotel room with her while I was downstairs taking family photos without my own mother. None of those things seemed connected to a baby name when they happened. They were just little moments where I was expected to understand. To be easy, to not make anyone else uncomfortable. Hannah said Mom had been managing Claire's feelings for so long that she could not tell the difference anymore between keeping peace and giving Claire whatever she wanted. I told Hannah I did not want to make Claire out to be some monster because she had been through IVF. Hannah said, then don't. This isn't about IVF. This is about her deciding pain gives her authority over you. That sentence stayed with me. By the time I was 30 weeks pregnant, the name situation had moved online. Claire made a Facebook post one Thursday night. It did not mention me by name. It did not have to. She wrote about how hard it was to go through years of fertility treatment while watching people around you get everything easily. She wrote about how there were people who claimed to love you, but could not make one small sacrifice when you needed them. She wrote that some mothers never understood what it meant to fight for a child before they were born. The comments filled up fast. People told her she was strong. People said they were proud of her. One of her old coworkers wrote that she hoped she got every wish her heart had ever carried. My mom commented 3 red hearts and wrote, "You deserve peace now." I stared at it for a long time. Then I closed the app without replying. The next day, an aunt I barely saw at holidays sent me a message asking if everything was okay. She said Claire seemed very upset and had told people I was refusing to compromise over a name. I wrote back that everything was not okay, but I didn't want her getting pulled in. I said Daniel and I had announced our son's name before Claire was even pregnant, and we were keeping it. My aunt replied, "Oh, that's not how Claire made it sound." I knew it was not. That was the point. I started putting everything into a folder on my laptop. The announcement photos, the screenshots, the text from Mom about the no sign, the message from Claire where she said she had only told Matt about Elliot after our announcement. I also saved messages that helped Claire more than they helped me. I saved the one where she told me she was scared before her embryo transfer. I saved the one where I told her I loved her and would be there no matter what. I saved the photo of her daughters holding the little, big sisters signs. Part of me needed to remember that I had not been cruel to her. I had been happy for her. I had shown up. I had driven her to an appointment once when Matt was stuck at work. I had sat with her in her living room after a failed transfer and watched her oldest daughter draw cats on the coffee table. The more people implied I had no compassion, the more I needed proof for myself that it was not true. The folder also made it harder for me to pretend that the problem was only between Claire and me. Every few days, Mom did something small that moved the story another inch. She sent a picture of Christmas stockings in the family chat, even though it was still August. There were 4 already hung on her mantel for the grandchildren, and she had added 2 more little blue ones at the end. One said Elliot, the other said Noah. I wrote, "Our son's stocking should say Elliot." Mom replied, "We can work out the details later." I asked what details there were to work out. She did not answer. Instead, Claire reacted to Mom's message with a heart. Then my niece Ava asked in the chat, "Why are there 2 different names if both babies are Elliot?" Claire wrote, "Because some grown-up things are still being discussed." I felt my face get hot when I read that. Ava was 9 years old. She did not need to be pulled into a fight that only existed because adults kept telling her there was something to negotiate. I messaged Claire privately and asked her not to involve the girls. She wrote back that I was the one making the family tense. She said her daughters were already confused about why their aunt did not care that their little brother might be called the same thing as his cousin. I told her the girls would be fine with 2 cousins who shared a name. They were not going to be fine if everyone taught them that one baby mattered more than the other. She did not answer. The next week, my mom told me she had canceled the order for the Noah stocking because she did not want another fight. I thanked her, even though it was such a strange thing to have to thank my own mother for. Then she asked if I would at least consider calling our baby Eli. I said Elliot could decide for himself what nickname he liked when he was old enough to have an opinion. Until then, his parents would call him Elliot. She said I was making it impossible for Claire to heal. That was when I realized there would never be a gentle enough answer. Every concession was going to become proof that there was something for Claire to win. At 33 weeks, my mom hosted a small shower for Claire at her house. I did not go. I told her I was tired and my doctor wanted me off my feet more. That was true, but it was not the whole truth. I did not trust myself to sit in a room while people admired things with the name Elliot on them. Hannah went. So did my aunt. So did most of the people who had been in our restaurant announcement pictures months earlier. The next morning, Hannah sent me a photo. It was of a blue banner hanging over Mom's fireplace. It said, "Welcome baby Elliot." There was a little note under it that read, "The name Claire has loved for years." I looked at that picture until the words blurred. What got me was not the spelling. It was not even the banner. It was the lie written in cheerful black letters for everyone to see. Claire had not loved it openly for years. She had not told Matt until after we announced it. She had not told Mom until after she was pregnant. But now the story had been cleaned up and decorated and hung above the fireplace. Daniel found me sitting on the nursery floor with my phone in my hand. He sat down beside me and asked what happened. I showed him the picture. He said nothing for a minute. Then he asked if I wanted him to call his grandfather's sister Ruth. I asked why. He said because Ruth had known Elliot his whole life. Because she had the old family Bible with every birthday written in the front. Because if anyone asked why our son had that name, she could answer without turning it into a fight. I told him no, not yet. I did not want to build an army around a baby name. I did not want every relative choosing teams. I wanted people to stop pretending I had done something to Claire. 2 days later, I had an appointment with my obstetrician because I had been feeling tightness in my stomach all morning. It turned out I was in early labor. Nothing dramatic happened at first. The nurse checked me, looked at the monitor, and told me I was further along than anyone expected. Daniel came from work so fast he forgot his phone charger. My mom was in the car before I had even decided whether I wanted her there. I told Daniel I did not want her in the room. He did not question it. I texted Mom that I was okay, that the baby was coming early, and that we would call after he was born. She called me 6 times in 20 minutes. I did not answer. Elliot was born just after midnight. He was small, angry, and absolutely perfect. Daniel cried before I did. Then he put our son on my chest and said, "Hey, Elliot." I had spent months bracing myself for that moment to be interrupted by someone else's opinion. But in the hospital room, with the lights low and Daniel's hand shaking against mine, there was no debate. There was no miracle, baby ranking system. There was just our son and the name we had been waiting to give him. We filled out the birth certificate paperwork the next afternoon. First name Elliot. Middle name Michael, after Daniel's dad, even though Daniel and his father had a complicated relationship. Last name mine and Daniel's together. We told our families through a photo of Elliot wrapped in a plain white blanket. The caption said, "Elliot Michael arrived early and is doing well." Mom replied first. She wrote, "He's beautiful. I'm glad you made a decision." I rate it twice. Not congratulations. Not welcome, Elliot. Just glad you made a decision. Like his name was a compromise she had been waiting to hear. Claire did not reply at all. For the first week, I was too tired to care. Elliot had trouble latching. I was sore everywhere. Daniel and I took turns sleeping in 90-minute pieces. The world got smaller in the way it does with a newborn. There was the bassinet, the bottle warmer, the stack of tiny diapers, Daniel pacing the hallway at 3 in the morning while whispering the words to songs he barely remembered. My mom came over once. She stood in the doorway of the nursery and watched me change Elliot's diaper. Then she said, "You know, if Claire has her baby first name as Elliot, people are going to assume you copied her spelling." I looked up at her. I said, "Mom, he is already here. His birth certificate is already filed." She said she knew that. She was just warning me. I asked who exactly needed to be warned. She said I was being defensive. I said I was tired of defending my son's name in his own room. She left early. Claire had her baby 6 weeks later, a healthy boy. She named him Elliot James. She announced it with a long Facebook post about answered prayers and the name she had carried in her heart through the hardest years of her life. She used the same pale blue color from the shower banner. Mom shared it within minutes. Under the post, Mom wrote, "Welcome to the family, little Elliot. You were worth every wait." Then, in the next sentence, she wrote, "So happy the cousins will have their own special versions of the name." That was the closest anyone came to admitting there were 2 of them. I did not comment. For a while, I thought maybe that would be enough. Claire had her Elliot. We had our Elliot. The children would grow up with the same name, and family would learn to add last names or use middle names or just deal with it like normal people. But Claire was not satisfied with having the name. She wanted the story. A month after her baby was born, I woke up to 8 missed calls from Hannah. Elliot had been awake most of the night, so I had my phone on silent. When I called Hannah back, she asked if I had seen Mom's Facebook post. I had not. She told me to look before I called anyone else. Mom had posted a photo collage. On one side was Claire holding her newborn. On the other side was a picture of my Elliot that I had sent her privately from the hospital. The caption said, "My first little Elliot finally arrived after so many years of hope. I'm so proud of my daughter for never giving up." My son's picture was there under a post about Claire's baby, like a decoration. Mom had also written, "We have all been calling him Noah at home to keep things simple, and it suits him so well." I felt something in me go completely still. I had spent months trying to be gentle. I had let Claire have her spelling. I had ignored the vague posts. I had stopped going to family dinners. I had even stayed quiet when Mom refused to call Elliot by his name after he was born. But she had posted my baby's face next to another child's name and announced to hundreds of people that the family had changed his name behind my back. I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring, already angry. She said Hannah had no right to stir things up. I told her to take the post down. She said it was a sweet post and I was looking for reasons to be offended. I told her it used my son's photo and called him a name that was not his. She said Noah was just a nickname. I said no one had ever called him Noah except her. She said I was making a mountain out of nothing. She said people were confused and she was trying to make everyone comfortable. I said, "You are making everyone comfortable except your daughter and grandson." She told me I had always been jealous of Claire. That almost made me laugh because it was so old. It was the thing she said whenever I did not immediately agree to clean up whatever mess Claire had made. I told her again to take the post down. She said no. Then she said, "You got your way. You named him Elliot. Can you please stop punishing your sister for having a hard life?" I hung up. Daniel was sitting across from me at the kitchen table, holding Elliot against his shoulder. He had heard enough of the call to understand. He asked what I wanted to do. For the first time, I knew exactly. I opened the folder on my laptop. I didn't write an angry post. I didn't mention Claire's IVF. I didn't mention the things Mom had said to me in private. I didn't share screenshots of Claire crying or the messages where she sounded scared. I wrote 6 sentences. I said Daniel and I announced our son's name, Elliot, at a family dinner on March 14. I included one of the announcement photos with the date visible in the text thread beneath it. I said Elliot was born on October 2, named to honor Daniel's grandfather. I said Claire and Matt were free to name their son whatever they loved, and we wished their little Elliot a healthy, happy life. I said our son's name was Elliot, not Noah, and asked everyone to respect that. That was all. Before I posted it, I sent it to Daniel. He read it, looked at me, and said, "It's true." So I posted it. The reaction was quieter than I expected. At first, there were just likes. Then my aunt commented that she remembered the March dinner and still had the E-shaped rattle she bought that night. Ruth commented that Elliot had been Daniel's grandfather's name and that he would have been proud to know a great-grandson carried it. Hannah wrote, "For the record, I was at the dinner too." Then people started messaging me privately. One cousin said she had assumed Claire had chosen the name first because Mom had told her that. Another said she had thought Noah was a nickname Daniel and I liked. A third apologized for telling me to be flexible without knowing what had actually happened. Nobody was cruel to Claire. Nobody needed to be. The dates did the work. Matt called me the next afternoon. I almost did not answer because I assumed he was going to ask me to take the post down. Instead, he asked if Elliot was asleep. When I said yes, he let out a breath that sounded like he had been holding it for weeks. He told me he was not calling to argue. He said he had seen the comments and wanted me to know he had told Claire from the beginning that she could use the name, but she could not make us change ours. He said he thought she had accepted that after the baby was born. I asked why he had agreed to name their son Elliot if he knew what it was doing to the family. He was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. Then he said Claire had spent most of her pregnancy afraid something would go wrong. Every time anyone questioned the name, she heard it as someone questioning whether the baby would really arrive. By the time he understood how far the name fight had gone, she was close to giving birth and he did not know how to pull it apart without making her feel abandoned. I told him I understood being afraid. I told him I did not understand why that fear had become my baby's burden. He said he did not either. Then he apologized, not in a dramatic way, just once, clearly. It did not fix anything, but it was the first apology I had received from anyone in that house. It made me sad more than it made me feel better. Before we hung up, he said he would make sure no one in their home called my son no again. I thanked him. That evening, Claire texted me 3 words. "I called you." I did not answer. There was nothing I could say that would not turn into a new accusation. Claire called that evening, crying so hard I could barely understand her. She said I had humiliated her. She said people were asking questions. She said Mom was devastated. She said I had turned her miracle baby into a family joke. I let her talk. When she finally stopped, I told her I had not said one negative word about her baby, her pregnancy, or her name choice. She said I had made everyone think she was a liar. I said I had told the truth about my son. She asked why I could not just delete the post now that I had made my point. I asked whether Mom had deleted the post with Elliot's picture and the wrong name. Claire got quiet. Then she said Mom had changed the caption. I opened Facebook. Mom had removed my son's photo. She had not apologized. She had simply edited the caption so it now said, "My newest grandson arrived after so many years of hope." I told Claire I was glad Mom had corrected it, but I was leaving my post up. She said, "You don't care how much I've been through." I said, "I care. I have always cared. But caring about you does not mean letting you erase my child." She hung up on me. For the next few days, Mom sent long messages about family unity. She said she was embarrassed. She said I had publicly contradicted her. She said Claire had been dealing with postpartum hormones and I needed to give her grace. I did not argue about postpartum hormones. I knew they were real. I knew new motherhood could make a person feel raw and terrified. I also knew Mom had started calling my baby Noah before Claire had even delivered hers. I texted Mom one message back. I told her I loved her. I told her I wanted her in Elliot's life. Then I gave her 3 rules. First, she would call him Elliot. Second, she would not post photographs or information about him without asking us first. Third, she would not tell relatives that Daniel and I had changed, reconsidered, or regretted his name. I told her that if she could not do those things, she would not be visiting for a while. She called me selfish. Then she called Daniel. Daniel told her the rules came from both of us. She asked him how he could let me do this to my own family. He said, "She's protecting her family." Mom did not visit for almost 2 months. It was harder than I expected. I missed her. I missed the version of her I had spent years trying to believe was still there, whenever Claire was not around. Some mornings, while I fed Elliot by the window, I would pick up my phone and almost text her a picture of him smiling or sleeping with one hand over his face. Then I would remember the Noah sign, the shower banner, the Facebook post. I would put the phone down. The distance changed more than the name argument. It made me notice how quiet our house was without someone else's emergency filling every corner of it. Daniel and I took Elliot for walks after dinner. We sat on the front steps while he kicked his feet in the stroller. We talked about daycare lists and whether we could afford a weekend at the lake next summer. For years, I had treated family peace like a job I was supposed to perform. If Claire was upset, I found the softest possible words. If Mom was disappointed, I explained myself until I could barely recognize what I had wanted in the first place. With a baby in the house, I could not do that anymore. Elliot did not need a mother who was always checking her phone to see who needed something from her. He needed a mother who could look at him and know that his name, his room, and his place in the family were not up for a vote. Claire stopped talking to me completely. She sent a Christmas card with a photo of her girls and baby Elliot. There was no note inside. Mom wrote, "Both boys," on the envelope when she forwarded it to us, which felt like progress in the saddest possible way. By spring, the immediate drama had burned itself out. Mom asked if she could come over. She said she understood the rules. She said she had been wrong to use Elliot's picture and wrong to call him Noah. She did not say much about the rest of it. She still avoided talking about Claire's demand as if naming it would make it real. But when she came into our house, she bent over the play mat and said, "Hi, Elliot." He looked at her and laughed. That was all it took for me to start crying. Mom cried too. Daniel came in from the kitchen and pretended not to notice us both wiping our faces. She has kept the rules since then. Not perfectly at first. Once she called him Little E, because she was afraid of saying the wrong thing, and I told her that was fine. I was not trying to make her scared of him. I just needed her to stop making him smaller so Claire could feel bigger. Claire still uses Elliot. She posts pictures of him on his monthly birthdays and writes about what a fighter he is. I do not comment, but I do not resent the baby. He is innocent in all of this. He is my nephew. He has Daniel's serious eyebrows and Claire's dimpled chin, and when I see him at the rare family event, I tell him he is beautiful. The first time both boys were in the same room, they were almost 10 months old. It was at my aunt's birthday lunch. Claire arrived late and sat on the other side of the table from me. Mom looked nervous the entire time. Every time someone said Elliot, she glanced between the babies like a smoke alarm might go off. Then my aunt's dog knocked over a basket of dinner rolls, and both boys started laughing at the same time. For 1 second, everyone laughed too. Claire looked at me across the table. She did not smile exactly, but she did not look away. Later, as we were leaving, she came up beside Elliot's stroller and said, "He looks more like Daniel every time." I said thank you. She looked down at him for another second and then said his name, Elliot. The right spelling did not matter when she said it. The sound was the same. I do not know if she has changed her mind about what happened. I do not know if she still believes her baby deserved the name more because he was harder to have. Maybe she does. Maybe she always will. But she does not ask me to change my baby's name anymore. And neither does anyone else. Elliot is 2 now. He knows his name. He says it with both hands pressed to his chest like he is making an announcement. He has Daniel's grandfather's pocket knife in a locked keepsake box for someday, along with the E-shaped rattle and the old photograph of a man he will never meet. His cousin is Elliot. That is fine. My son is Elliot. And after everything, that is finally enough.